Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Now, if you follow the channel for several years, you might have seen a video I did quite some time back. I think it's been a couple of years, about like do's and don'ts on buying and selling on Craigslist. And basically that's what this is. I'm just kind of expanding it because nowadays Craigslist is not the only venue to use for buying or selling a vehicle. You got Facebook Marketplace, which has become very popular. You've got OfferUp. I mean, you've got eBay, and there's a lot of other websites out there and places that you can find vehicles. So as a buyer and seller myself, I'm just going to go through my pet peeves, things that I have noticed from being on both ends of the spectrum, and just some things that if you want to be successful in buying and or selling a car, follow these tips and it's going to work out very well for you. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm going to start out as a seller. As a seller, when you go to sell a vehicle, if you're serious about selling your vehicle, you need to be realistic about your price. That means doing your research, seeing what's out there for sale, seeing what is out there that has sold. eBay has a wonderful option. If you go and you can click on a little box that says completed items, you can see what like-minded vehicles have sold for and kind of get a general idea of really what your vehicle is worth. And now I get it, some people just want to throw a high price on their vehicle. They don't care if they sell it or not. Usually that's pretty easy to spot. A lot of times when I'm scrolling through and I'll see a vehicle and I'll think, well, why in the world are you asking this much for it? And I'll look at the ad and there's nothing really special about it, so I'll move on. I know that they're not serious, they're not going to be that flexible on their price, so I'll just move on. So if you're serious, you got to be seriously priced, you got to be in the ballpark, you got to be in the market range, and always leave a little bit of room for flexibility. I know a lot of people put on their firm, and some people mean it and everything like that, but I think people like to have a little bit of negotiation room. So I always just price a little bit higher. I shouldn't say always, but most times I'll price a little bit higher than I'm willing to take, and kind of go from there. Second thing that I want to talk about as a seller, and this is a big one, man. When you put a way to contact you, don't just put email. Email to me is ridiculous. You know, rarely will I ever contact you if you only have email as your way of contact. Put in a phone number, be available for text, for phone calls, what have you. I realize some people don't want to be bothered. If you don't want to be bothered, you're not a serious seller. And I'm not really interested in dealing with you or anything because you're not a serious seller, and if I'm coming at you, I'm a serious buyer. So, you know, with email, sometimes it goes to spam, sometimes it gets lost out there on the web. It's just not worth it. So put a contact phone number, be prepared, be available. I realize people do work, they have other obligations, but you know, you should be getting back to people if they call you, leave you a message, or if they text you and ask you some questions. You should be getting back to them in a timely manner. Another good thing is put a lot of description in your ad. You can't overdo it. I shouldn't say you can't overdo it, because you can't overdo it. Sometimes I'll see these ads that are just huge and I'm like, man, I don't even want to take the time to read that novel. But put in all the pertinent stuff, the condition, what's been done to the vehicle, maybe how long you've had it, answer some of those basic questions if the vehicle has needs or what have you. Answer those, make it very clear, very concise in the ad, but do put in a good amount of detail. And I realize that is frustrating because a lot of people don't read the ads, and I'll get into that as a buyer in just a minute. But the more detail the better, to an extent. And a lot of pictures, man, a lot of pictures, different angles if you can do it under the hood and the trunk, inside, different angles under there. If you can get it up on a lift and take pictures underneath the car, that's really, really good. But pictures really are worth 1,000 words, and good pictures too, quality pictures, not some old picture that you take a picture of that came from like 1970, or a picture that you had maybe 10 years ago of the vehicle. Updated pictures are very important. There's usually a timestamp on there, so within the past 6 months to a year, depending on the vehicle or what have you, you want to make sure that if someone comes to look at the vehicle, they're not looking at the picture, looking at the car and going, these are not even the same vehicle. You know what I mean? So another thing as a seller is, talked about being available to answer calls, texts, what have you. Be available to show the vehicle, okay? Really bad time to list your vehicle for sale if you're planning on going on vacation for 2 weeks or you got stuff going on this weekend. You need to be fairly flexible, fairly available, because sellers are largely impulse. And so if they contact you and like, hey, I want to come take a look at it, you need to jump on that if you seriously want to sell it. You wait a couple days, maybe a week, get back to the buyer and say, hey, I'm ready. They might say, yeah, I've moved on to something else, or just not interested anymore. That happens. People lose momentum very, very quickly. So be available. You know, when you're showing the vehicle, be prepared to answer questions, be prepared to offer a test drive. You know, some people are not comfortable with just letting others take their vehicles out by themselves or whatever. You want to go with them, that's fine, or you want to take them for a test drive, that's fine. I really don't mind. A lot of times when I go to look at a vehicle, I would almost rather that the seller drive and I sit in the passenger seat so I can kind of experience the car from that angle. I can get a lot of feedback that way. I do like to drive the vehicle too, so oftentimes I will. There's been times I've just taken a ride in the passenger seat and bought a vehicle from that. But you know, be available to show the vehicle, to answer questions, be accommodating to the seller, and I mean, you can usually tell if someone's serious or not. So you know, as to how much time you want to put into selling your vehicle will dictate on the other person, the buyer's attitude. Okay, now if you're a buyer, first thing you want to do as a buyer is, you know, contact. Obviously you see a vehicle, you see it for sale, you read the ad, and that is a very important, and that's probably the first thing, is read the ad. I cannot tell you how many people I've had contact me that just didn't read the ad. I'm like, I answered this question in the ad, especially if I put it at the very top of the ad. Good example, Facebook is horrible for not letting us price our vehicles for what we want. You know, they have a specific like range of what they think the vehicle is worth, and if you price it above or below, they won't let you do it. It just absolutely won't let you do it. You can't bypass it. At least I don't know of a way to bypass it, and it's a little ridiculous. So there have been vehicles that I put like an arbitrary price, like say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, obviously that is not the price of the vehicle, and I will put in the very first line, this is not the price of the vehicle, the price is actually this. Facebook wouldn't let me put the price of the vehicle. Read the damn ad, people. Read down through the ad. If you're that serious and you want to contact me on my vehicle that I have for sale, you should at least take the time to read the paragraph or 2 paragraphs that I have under there. It's only going to take you maybe 30 seconds to a minute to read it, and look at all the pictures, blow them up, take a look at details, you know, any dents, dings, anything like that, all that stuff, so you can answer a lot of the questions that you might have prior to contacting the seller. You know, again, as a buyer, be timely in getting back to the seller and conversing back with the seller. If you instigate that contact, then you want to be responding back, you know, fairly quickly, asking pertinent questions. As a buyer, if you initiate contact with someone interested in their vehicle and they're responding back in a fairly timely manner, you want to respond back in a fairly timely manner. If you're serious about the vehicle, then you know you want to have that conversation back and forth. You want to get your questions answered, and then ultimately you want to set up time to go look at the vehicle or meet up or what have you. So you know, be responsive, be consistent, follow through as far as stuff like that goes. And if for some reason you change your mind, just let them know, hey, you know what, I don't think this vehicle's for me, or you know, I'm going another direction or whatever. Don't leave them hanging. And the same thing for a seller. Don't leave the buyer hanging. I've had a lot of that stuff going back and forth, and it's kind of ridiculous. I don't care if you don't want to buy my vehicle, or I don't care if you don't want to sell your vehicle anymore. I'm fine with that. I respect that. Just let me know what's going on, so I'm not sitting there going, okay, what's going on? And you know, it's frustrating when you're trying to converse with people and like you're shooting texts back or phone calls or whatever, and you're not getting anything in return. It's like, okay, what happened? The person just dropped off the face of the earth. And to me, it's kind of ridiculous. You know, someone does that to me, I just don't want to do business with them. As a buyer, when you do go to look at the vehicle, you know, granted, there's going to be those times when you're going to show up and it's going to be like, oh man, this vehicle's not nearly as nice as I thought it was, or as I thought in the pictures, or what was described to me, or whatever. And it's hard not to show that disappointment on your face, but you know, I've had it happen to me before. I still walk around the vehicle. You know, they took the time to come out and meet with me or what have you. I took the time to drive over, so you know, I'm going to give this vehicle a chance, walk around it, check it out. It's okay to point out flaws and things that you see, but don't go overboard. Don't nitpick. Certainly, you know, hey, okay, you know, there's a little dent over here, and you maybe need some paint work back here, interior's a little dirty. Oh, I know it's got an oil leak. Things like that. That'll help you with your negotiation. When negotiating, be realistic. You know, there's only been a few times that I've actually come in and like basically cut someone off the knees and said, you know what, I know you're asking this for the vehicle. You know, for me, I just tell them, like, for me, I have a lot of vehicles. I really don't need to buy it. I probably shouldn't buy it. You're kind of doing me a favor by saying no, but I'm going to offer you this. And I've even come in like a little bit less than half of what a person's asking for a vehicle and tell them I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Just for me, this is what the vehicle's worth. You could probably get more if you hang in there. I don't mind. I'm okay if you say no. That's okay. You're being respectful. But you know, to come in and basically, you know, downplay the vehicle and and then just kind of rudely, okay, you're asking 10,000, I'll give you 5. That's it. I'm not going to do anything more. That's just kind of a rude way to do it. All in presentation, you know, it's all in presentation and really how you come across and how you present yourself. So, you know, that's very, very important. Just be realistic. I mean, this vehicle, someone's probably enjoy it, at least at one point in time. Respect that. Even though you may not see it, respect that. One other little thing I'm going to throw in there, and this is for sellers, and this is something I have found to be true. Like for me, you know, obviously I have a lot of vehicles, I only have so much room, and more often than not these days, if I want to get something new, I really need to sell something. Something needs to leave my shop so I have room. So the first thing I'll do is I'll ask people if they're interested in trades, if I got something for trade. Nothing frustrates me more. Well, okay, there are things that frustrate me more, but this is a big frustration for me. I'll hit somebody up. I know they don't say trades in their ad, but a lot of times, you know, people won't say trades. I'll hit them up and they'll say, yeah, what do you got or whatever. When you do not respond back to me at all, that really irritates me. Because more often than not, I had the cash or the money to buy your vehicle anyway without a trade. So, you know, if someone comes back and says, no, I'm not taking trades right now, I just want to sell it, then I can come back and say, okay, no problem, thank you for your time. Or I can come back and say, okay, well, you know what, let me come look at your vehicle, or let me ask you a few questions. I might be interested in buying it. I've had a lot of that lately. I hit somebody up, you interested in a trade for this or that or whatever? Nothing. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I probably would have considered buying your car, but you didn't respond back to me, and that really irritates me. I got one guy right now, I'm trying to work on a deal. It's a very inexpensive car, it's close by, I'd like to go take a look at it, but I mean, the guy takes like 24 plus hours to get back to me. And I mean, maybe it's his schedule or whatever, but when he tells me, yeah, call me at a certain time, and I do, and he doesn't answer, and I leave a message, and then he doesn't get back to me, that's a little frustrating. So you got to remember, I guess the bottom line is, as a seller, put yourself in the buyer's shoes. How do you want to be treated? How do you want to do this deal? As a buyer, put yourself in the seller's shoes, and how do you want to be treated, and how do you want to do this deal? I think if you just follow that basic rule, after all this video, just follow that basic rule, I think you'll be okay, and I think you'll be successful in buying and selling and all of that. So I hope this video has been helpful. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. P.O. Box and Instagram in the description below. Guys, God bless. Take care. Have an absolutely amazing day.